campaign was spied on by police. Then we heard from John Burke-Monerville, who was the father of... hang on, is this working? Oh, I don't know if that's working. There's some problem with the connection. It's not working. Oh, I do apologise. This happened yesterday as well. Oh, we're now live. Okay. So we've just come to the brought up at the end of his evidence. It took Rajiv Menon asking those questions for it to be brought up. Mitting replied directly to it, saying that, as in the past he said, for reasons that I'm sure you'll understand. He didn't say that this time, but he said, that because of the nature of it, because it was the infiltration of the far right, that part of the inquiry will take place in secret. But he also said that the conclusions of it, Richard will never know.
Investigate the far right, but that's just off the top of my head. But I know in Thamesmead in 1991 and before, there were racist thugs. There was racist and far right and Nazi graffiti, and no sign the police were doing anything at all about it until after Roland's death, which the police wanted to put down as gang warfare, or somebody from Abbey Wood being in Thamesmead, some sort of fighting over people's patches, and yet I heard today Nathan testified that racist language was used just before Roland was killed, and in actual fact in Thamesmead I was told that the murderer had said he intended killing a black person. It was just gossip on the estate, but it was the police did nothing about it before. The police
John Burke-Monerville really sort of summed it up at the end there, where he said that the motivation for the fact that the police were not investigating these murders properly, they were covering up, that they were lying, was they were motivated by their racism, which I think is was endemic then, and I would suggest is endemic now. There was something. A lot of civilian witnesses we get the Undercover Policing Inquiry, when they talk about the campaign they were part of being infiltrated, we're looking at one particular officer. Today was very different, and there were just so many officers who were reporting on these family justice campaigns. Remember, these family justice campaigns weren't like we say campaign. I mean, they were not. They were gathering outside court cases, and they were taking part in mobilisations of various sorts, but you can't really call them like protest groups in any real sense of the word. These were people who were demanding that the justice system worked in the way that it's kind of meant to. But we've heard time and time again these sorts of family justice campaigns referred to as like anti-police protests within SDS literature. And we saw sections today from the SDS annual reports where they really showed like the pride that they'd penetrated, as they like to call it, so many of these justice campaigns. Huge amounts of it was redacted, but we only see the huge black box that appeared next to the Trevor Monerville campaign's infiltration to know that there was a whole list of other family justice campaigns that were being infiltrated at the same time. I have to say, today's hearing... I've been to as everybody knows, I've been to every single one of the hearings. Today's hearing, I think, was particularly difficult because just the levels of trauma and just the horror, really, experienced by both sets of families was really affecting. I mean, normally I did do a video at lunchtime. I didn't feel able to do it today, to be perfectly honest. I was just far too upset. It is incredibly upsetting. It is that I think that both witnesses carried themselves with amazing dignity and calmness. I mean, it was shocking. The most shocking thing I heard all day was John Burke-Monerville saying that he doesn't bear any ill will towards the police. I mean, I don't think I could be as magnanimous in life as he has been. It speaks volumes of the man that he is able to carry himself in life through that. It's not something I would be able to do. Yeah, I mean, if you didn't follow today, I really recommend doing so. Familiar yourself with both cases. The Monerville family suffered 3 murders of sons, 2 of which remain unsolved, as well as the brutal beating of Trevor before he was murdered, many years before he was murdered by the police, which he never truly recovered from. Really heartbreaking stories. Yeah, I normally have a lot more articulate things to say in these videos, but I'm just kind of it has quite affected me today. Is there anything else you'd like to add about today's hearings?
Well, I agree. It was very strong stuff, and a lot of it was incredibly sad. I think another sad thing, though, is I'm sceptical that these inquiries will get to the bottom of it. I'm sceptical that anybody will be held to account, and above the police officer who went round spying, lying, having relationships with people, and utterly disgraceful behaviour. Are the more senior police officers that authorised it all, the establishment that authorises it all, and a system that's continuing. I'm campaigning like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people for Palestine right now, and our movement is doubtless being spied on, and just a little while ago we saw some Just Stop Oil people spied on in a Zoom meeting and locked up. It's time the state did the right things and stopped doing wrong things and then spying on the rest of us for trying to put it right. But I say it's time, but I dare say it will carry on till for quite a while yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those of us who've been following the Spycops know full well that the Palestine Solidarity Campaign was first infiltrated by undercover officers back in the late 60s. It was a different Palestine Solidarity Campaign at the time, but, it has always been the case that movements for peace, movements for a better world have been at the top of the list of organisations that have been spied on by the cops. I mean, you say about the Just Stop Oil people being spied on that Zoom call, which has led to a bunch of them being sent to prison for a number of years for being in a meeting. A lot of people complain that this inquiry doesn't get enough media coverage. I mean, I think the reason for that is that civil liberties in this country are objectively worse. Repression is objectively worse now than it was then. I'm sure the sort of spying is still going on now, but just the overt policing we're seeing is so incredibly bad. That the as much as we were, back in the day, we were heavily policed. We didn't get sent to prison for going to meetings. That's not the case anymore. You can get 4 years for that. We live in dark times, comrades. But yeah, the inquiry continues. I like Tim. I don't have any faith in what the outcomes of this inquiry are going to be. But it's not about the outcomes. It's about the journey. It's about the disclosure. It's about the things we learn along the way. It's about what we're able as activists to get out of it. If the inquiry wasn't going on, we'd still be trying to learn these things. The inquiry makes it a bit easier in a funny kind of way, as well as being incredibly frustrating in lots of ways. But the inquiry takes a break now. There's no hearing tomorrow. There's no hearing next week. We'll be back again on Monday the 4th of November. There's a full week of hearings then. We've got Martin Lowe, who you heard about during the last phase, wasn't given evidence this time. Then we've got Dave Morris, who's given evidence, I think, in pretty much every phase. Somebody who was spied on in every single era. Chris Bailey, Gabrielle Bosley, Timothy Green, Albert Beale, who you've heard before. That's all next week. There's many more weeks to come of this phase. We're carrying on till Christmas and beyond with phase 2. Join us then. I'll do a Twitter Spaces this evening. I'm not sure what time. Recapping today. Please, if you're on Twitter, join us. If you've been following the hearings, please join the discussion and speak. But thanks for joining us. Anything you want to add, Tim, before we sign off?
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. All right, thanks to all of you for joining us. I'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye.